So we're just lifting our Dahlia tubers that have been stored underneath Neil's frames there. We had lids on them all winter, so the soil, oh wow, the soil is really dry, and also it's really warm. It feels like it's June underneath there. But the Dahlias have been here for a couple of years and they need splitting. And that one seems to have split itself.
Yeah, small world.
Small
Oh,
world.
Wizard of Oz.
Oh, Wizard. So we've got 3 wizards. There's not any need to even divide that, is there?
Oh, you got 4.
Oh, let me show them. When you're dividing tubers, you don't always need to get a knife and slice through them, because they're just fingers that have been knitted together. So normally if you just leave them to rest, they shrink slightly and you can wiggle them apart. But you can see this one here, there is just one little connection there. So if I cut that, that's going to come completely free. And then we've got 4 tubers for the price of 1. Absolutely brilliant. 2, 3, 4. Now this is the old stem, so this is not going to have any shoots on it. The shoots are going to come from the new tubers and the eyes will be down here. Can you see this tuber here? That's last year's tuber. You can see it's attached to last year's stem. So it's rotting away, so don't panic, because it's not actually going to do anything. All the goodness is going to come from these new tubers. Last year's tuber grew, turned into a plant. During the season, the plant created lots of new tubers, and those in turn will then generate eyes, create plants. They will then perish and then create new tubers to overwinter, which is why they can get really congested if you leave all the old and all the new jangled up together year after year. Here you can see the old stem and nothing is happening here. It's just withering away, and all the fresh new growth is coming from new eyes down in the tuber. Another one for you, so you can see we've got 2 new shoots. So if you're not sure, just leave the Dahlia to start shooting and then you'll soon be able to see which parts you can snip away. So nothing's going on with this old stem, so you can just cut that away there with your secateurs and then leave these 2 new shoots to grow on beautifully. Going to be covering starting Dahlia tubers in a lot more detail. We haven't done it yet because we don't want you starting them too early, especially if you've only got a small greenhouse zippy or no greenhouse at all. They're not house plants, so you can't start them in your sitting room and then leave them until after the last frost. You're going to have to be ferrying them outside on the patio every day and then bringing them in at night. It will drive you nuts. If you accidentally leave them out once they've shooted and we get low temperatures, not even a frost, it could burn all the foliage, and all the hard work of getting them started early so you can have early blooms, you'll actually end up setting them back and you'll be further behind than you would have been if you'd waited. Now we're digging up our Dahlia tubers because they have now been in the ground for 3 years. So the first year they were fine, they were quite small. The second year they bloomed beautifully, but they are starting to get quite big. Now some people leave their Dahlia tubers in the ground year after year thinking that they're coming back fine, but they're probably not. What's happening is part of the tuber is perishing during the winter, but you don't really notice that. Last winter was very, very mild, so I've got no doubt that our Dahlia tubers are going to come back completely intact. And if we left them for another year, the plants are going to get quite congested, and that will reduce the number of flowers that you get. You'll get a lot of foliage, but the tubers will start to almost strangle themselves with the new growth and the old growth. Look at the size of this cafe. Just put my hand in just so you can get a comparison to just how massive it is. Look at that. Incredible. So here we've got a nice dahlia tuber that could probably do with a little bit of division. If you don't want to divide, you can always take cuttings. I will show you how to do that later as well. But I'm going to let the tuber relax, let a little bit of the moisture disappear from the tubers. They will then be a bit thinner and you might not need to do as much cutting as you think you do. You could probably wiggle them apart. My goodness me, I can't even lift those, they weigh a ton. There we go, a day in the fresh air will do them no harm at all. Here in the shed are where we've stored our dahlia tubers over the winter. They've stored beautifully. Again, it's been so mild. So I'm going to have so many examples to show you. At the end of last season, I was gifted a box of tubers. So obviously I couldn't plant them. So what I did is I left them in the box they came in the cool, in the dark, and you can see that they are doing really well. They're shooting and the tubers are a little bit wizened. So we know that they're okay because they're shooting. But what I'm going to do before I plant them is I'm just going to give them a bath in a tray of water for a couple of hours and then pot them up, and then they should be absolutely fine. Okay. I'll come back in an hour or so and have a look, see how they're getting on. Well, it's been almost exactly 1 hour and look at that, you can see the difference already. They're plumping up. They will probably take a day or so to plump up properly. So what we'll do is we'll take them out of the water, pot them up, and then the compost will hold the moisture around the tubers and they'll continue to recover. Now I thought I'd just quickly show you how I'm going to pot it up, just in case something like this happens to you, and then you'll know what to do. So this is just a 2 litre pot. The pot just needs to be slightly bigger than the tuber so you don't squash it, and it's deep enough that I can position it with the shoots pointing upwards. There we go, and I'm just going to use multi-purpose compost. You can put grit in if you want to, but the dahlias are really not going to stay in these pots that long. There we go. That's lovely. Don't forget your label. And then I'm just going to give it a gentle water. It doesn't need to be soaked because the tuber's been soaked. So the compost just needs to be damp just to keep that moisture in. Don't overwater it. And then just leave it in the light. These shoots will very soon turn green.